Hey everyone, this is Metalhead Nation 1021. As most of you probably know, I'm a big Dream Theater fan. Got a ton of the merchandise, all their albums except for one. Uh, I am a huge fan. Sure, I've seen them twice live, hopefully 3 times in April. And today the new Dream Theater album came out. Distance Over Time, 2019, Dream Theater's newest album. 10 tracks, about 58 minutes, I believe. Uh, it is insane, but I'll tell you how I feel about it, how it's insane. Okay, there was a lot of controversy after The Astonishing. A lot of people didn't like it. They felt that it was too experimental, too long, and just didn't work well with like what Dream Theater had built up over their career. I personally liked it. It wasn't one of my favorites, but I definitely didn't dislike it. Uh, I listened to it probably only once through, but I mean, I've gone back to a lot of the songs that I like. Uh, so I wasn't as scared about this album as other people were, because I did enjoy the last few albums. I definitely preferred the Portnoy era albums, though, I'll be honest. And I'm not going to diss Mangini at all here. It's not his fault. Uh, and I feel like the fan base is a lot too hard on him. He's just coming in and doing his job. But, I mean, you guys can think whatever you guys want. If you have opinions about this, I don't want to interfere. But anyways, this new album was pretty anticipated. They talked a lot about how it's going to be a very heavy return and going to be very similar to Train of Thought, I believe, is the album that they compared it to. And I listened to the album about 2 or 3 times through already, and I kind of want to review it. I have notes right here, and I'm going to go track by track and then give a final review of the album at the end. Okay. The first track, which was the first single that was released, is called Untethered Angel. Pretty much the first thing that we heard from the album was this song. They released samples on their social media and stuff, but in terms of, like, substance, this was the first thing that fans were able to get at. Again, I'm just going to go through the highlights of the track. First, this is all songs, I'm just going to mention this right now, all the songs on this album have some of the best choruses and, like, memorable choruses that Dream Theater's ever done in their history. And that's just my opinion, but I strongly believe that this album has some of the strongest, catchiest material that they've ever released. And this song right here is beautiful. I mean, beautiful acoustic intro. Again, like I said, with the chorus, it's just beautiful. I want to go to the build-up for the solo, where it kind of, the drums and the guitar kind of do this intertwining and these odd patterns that you come to expect from Dream Theater. And it works really well. It sounds really nice, and I really enjoy listening to that part in particular. One thing I'd also like to mention is that all the rumors about the drumming sounding as bad as it did on the previous several albums, the album completely obliterates that right away. The drums sound amazing. The drumming itself sounds amazing, but also the production of the drums, I have no complaints there. Everything works. The snare's better than it was. The bass drums are better. And maybe that's just me, but I really like it. So anyway, that's extremely observable in this song, as it does feature a lot of drumming. The solos fit perfectly. There's an organ solo and a guitar solo. Both are amazing. The outro is heavy. That was also one of the things teased on their Instagram. Oh my lord, like the drums and the guitar, I think John used an 8-string on this album, and if there was a part that I had to predict was using that guitar, it would be this one. This would be at least one of them. It's insane. I think it's the great single. It was one of my favorite singles. So my score for that track is an 8.2 out of 10. Next is the song Paralyzed, and I will admit right away that this is the song that I listened to least and I was the least interested in, I'd say, out of the 3 singles released. This is track 2. and the production on this one, I will admit, is extremely heavy. The beginning riff is just killer. It's crushing. I mean, it's this. You can really hear the metal influences now on this album in particular. A lot of train of thought is being brought back onto this album, and I believe a lot of the fans from that era are really going to enjoy this. Uh, okay, one other thing I'd like to mention is that James LeBray's voice is absolutely amazing on this album. I know a lot of people don't like his voice, but I feel like on this album it's back in my opinion. And I don't know if they use vocal effects. I don't care. I think it sounds amazing. And James, in my opinion, is a really good vocalist. I do understand his voice has deteriorated over the years, but I loved it. I love the song. And there's an interlude in this song in particular that is just amazing, and it transitions into a pretty emotional solo, even for such a heavy song. So I give Paralyzed a 7.6 out of 10, which is the lowest of the three singles. I'll just say that now. The third single, and the second to be released, was Fall Into the Light, and it's the longest single at 7 minutes, and I don't remember how many seconds. The intro riff is catchy right there, like da-na-na, da-na-na, and right away, I mean, I can just pick that out of my brain right now, and I've only listened to the song like 5 or 6 times, and I have a terrible memory. Around 50 seconds, there's this crazy thrash metal part, or thrash metal riff, and it's awesome to hear that. Again, the metal elements are really coming back into Dream Theater now, and honestly, Mangini's drumming I'll be honest, it actually works extremely well with the heavier riffs that they put into this album. Again, the chorus is beautiful. There's an acoustic interlude that grabs your attention around the middle point of the song, I'd say. And it sounds like something from A Dramatic Turn of Events, which is another album I'd like to compare a lot of the tracks on this album to. And I love that album. So this album, even having some tracks similar to that, is just awesome in my opinion. Solo is extremely emotional. Again, a lot of people were praising this song because the solo just sounded so beautiful, smooth, and just emotional, and it's amazing. I agree. I like the flashy stuff, but this is a really good solo. I'll admit it, and definitely check this song out. There's a riff towards the end that sounds very similar to Metallica or Avenged Sevenfold, later Avenged Sevenfold, I should say, or Black Album Metallica, and I really enjoy it. I think it's a really good section of the song, and it really shows how some of the more modern influences of Dream Theater, and the thrash metal riff begins again. There's an amazing organ solo by Jordan. Organ shows up a lot through this album. Then there's a really technical outro, and I think it's really impressive. There's a lot of videos of people reacting to this song, and they always their eyes light up towards the end. It is crazy. So I'm going to score this track an 8 out of 10. The fourth track on the album is called Barstool Warrior, and now we're out of the singles of the album. The intro, I kept the note of it right here. It sounds extremely similar to, I believe it's New Millennium from Falling Into Infinity. The intro, in particular, it almost matches to a T. It's crazy, and I really like that intro, so it was a nice little nostalgic callback. This song in general, I would say, had a lot of nostalgia, maybe accidental, but I mean, I picked a lot of riffs and sections from it that really sounded like older albums that I've listened to before, and that kind of gave me a little nostalgia trip. There's a riff around 40 seconds that's very similar to 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence, something you'd hear on the song. And again, I love this. I love that album. It's one of my favorites, if not my favorite album by the band. Around 50 seconds, there's a awesome technical spot involving the guitar, drums, and keyboard, and then that transitions into a melodic part right afterwards. And the transition is so smooth, which is one of the strengths of this album, which is one of the biggest strengths. I love it. The lyrics are beautiful. It's emotional. I believe it's about an alcoholic. And, the song's called Barstool Warrior. But it's a really good song. And it was one of the songs on the album that I really noticed the lyrics of. And it really stuck out to me. around 4 minutes, there's like a area of the song that really does sound similar, in my opinion, to the Count of Tuscany. Like the mid part where it's like really I don't know how to say it. Like your soul's traveling through space, like that airiness of the keyboard. And there's a part in this song that sounds very similar to that, in my opinion. And then a variation of the sound of the song at around 6:10 is beautifully done. I mean, this whole track does deviate a little bit into like separate sections, and I really enjoy it. That track gets an 8.3 out of 10. That's Barstool Warrior. The next track 5, is Room 137, and one of the shortest songs on the album, but I believe it was written by Mike Mangini, the lyrics at least. I love this song, I'll be honest. It's dark. That's the first thing I think when I hear it. Excuse me. The intro sounds like the Beautiful People from Marilyn Manson. That's just my opinion. I don't know if anybody else has heard it, but I honestly think that's the first thing that comes to mind for me. To mention again, the chorus has a wonderfully dark tone to it that is rare in recent Dream Theater, or Dream Theater in general, over the past like 30-something years. Again, sounds like it could be from 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence. I'm not complaining, I love that album. The section around 2 minutes 10 seconds uses like a beautiful vocal effects. It's layered almost, and then like put through a phaser like for a guitar. And that's what it sounds like, and it is beautiful. And that is repeated around 4 minutes, and they layer it more, and it builds up to like this huge like not twist, but like a effect that works extremely well in the album. I don't know how to explain it. It is beautiful. I recommend checking this track out a lot. If just for that one part, it is insane. So that track gets an 8.3 out of 10. The 6th track is S2N. I'll get right into this one. I'm running short on time. There's an awesome bass intro, and that's followed by a very like technical section between all the instruments. The vocal patterns are just like really catchy, like they like hit with the instruments, and there's more work from Jordan Rudess on the organ, except it's more in the background, so it's not always sticking out and being the center of attention. There's some deeper vocals, and I believe they're still provided by James LeBray, but I really enjoy them. I think they really add some diversity to the song. The guitar solo, right now, one of the best in recent Dream Theater history, or maybe of all time for me. It's just like crazy fast, technical, but it also is like melodic and really like, I don't even know how to explain it. It is just an amazing guitar solo, and it's probably the best one of the modern era in my opinion. With like all the Mangini albums, is probably the best guitar solo that John has ever done. He uses some tremolo bar too at the beginning, similar to like what you'd hear in Under a Glass Moon, but not as dependent on the tremolo bar. There's a drum break that happens towards like the middle to end of the song, and there's a funny moment where it's like the wow meme, the wow. That one right there, that meme is included on the 3rd drum break. It's just funny. I mean, first time I heard it, I was listening at like 1 o'clock in the morning, like last night, right when the album came out, and oh my, that just caught me off guard. I thought it was hilarious. What else do we have? The outro on the keyboard is very reminiscent of The Dark Eternal Night, one of my favorite Dream Theater songs. I absolutely love that they included a keyboard outro, and it has that same like raspy kind of synth noise that you'd hear from like an album such as Systematic Chaos, and I love it. Score is 9.5 out of 10 for me. That was S2N. The 7th track, and the longest track on the album, is At Wits End. The drum work on this one is stellar. There is some more kind of drum break parts and technical elements thrown in. It works beautifully. The first 2 riffs give off like an epic sound. Like, it's the longest track on the album, so they gave it like that epic sound that you'd hear from like things like The Nightmare to Remember, or things. I'm trying to think of heavier tracks that were like longer. I think it works really well. again, more amazing choruses, and it's very similar to a dramatic turn of events, like those choruses that you'd hear on that album. Okay, probably the best keyboard solo in Dream Theater history. I still wouldn't say that it beats a Rite of Passage's keyboard solo for me, because it's just how unique and crazy that is. But it's probably some of Jordan's best work in Dream Theater ever. It is just insanely fast, but like catchy, and like you just can't get it out of your head. And it's just crazy to think about how technical it is. I really like it. That's my style. Uh, there's another guitar solo. It's just a longer. It's like a short one around right after the keyboard solo, and I really like that one. But then they hit another one later in the song that's like very emotional, and it's like the progression here is like just beautiful. And there's actually a piano, the piano with like the vocals like isolated from all other instruments is just beautiful at around the 5 minute 10 second mark. Uh, there's a fade out, and then the track comes back with like what I wrote here would be as a beautiful, translucent, and echo laden masterpiece. And by that, it's hard to explain, but it seems like you're walking into another room and you're just hearing this like, or like in walking up to heaven, you start hearing the music. It is just beautiful. And again, that's one of the parts that's really unique about this album, and I really loved like hearing that. I definitely recommend checking this song out. 9.7 out of 10 for me. Wonderful song. Uh, track number 8 is Out of Reach. It's probably the lightest song on the album, and it's acoustic. And these tracks have been very varied for me throughout the history of Dream Theater. Like, I guess you could put tracks like Wither under it, which I'm not a very big fan of, and other tracks as well. There was one, I think it's This Is the Life from A Dramatic Turn of Events, which I really enjoyed. And beautiful acoustic track. Piano, guitar, and vocals like intertwine in the beginning section like very well. LeBray's vocals are some of the best in recent memory on this track in particular, throughout the whole album, but in this track in particular, they do really shine with like the acoustic guitar. It's like beautiful. And again, another beautiful such emotional guitar solo as the track progresses on. The score for this one is 8.1 out of 10. I really liked it. It wasn't like a huge like revolution in their sound, but I really enjoyed it. But speaking about a revolution in their sound, the last track on the album, not counting the bonus track included, is Pale Blue Dot. And I'm just gonna say it right now. This is one of the most unique songs in Dream Theater history, or at least in recent memory. So much is explored here. It's just insane, and the lyrics are probably some of the strongest. Not because they involve any particular event, but they just put you into like an existential crisis listening to this and realizing how true the statements are. And at the end, it just beautifully wraps itself up into a better message, a positive and hopeful message that anybody can learn from. So I guess it begins with really chilling samples of all like. It's hard to make out what people are saying. Reminds me of Sacrifice Sons quite a bit from Octavarium. Works very well. And there's like a synth in the background, kind of building up to like the start of the track. The drums hit, and they are extremely fast, brutal, and impressive on this song in particular, as well as a Wits End, or At Wits End. They work very well. Drums are some of the best that Mangini's ever done, maybe not just in Dream Theater, but in his entire career on an album. His solos are still like a million times better in my opinion. But I thought it was amazing. I really enjoyed the drums on this track. Like I was saying earlier, it is extremely deep and dark compared to like most other Dream Theater tracks in their history. If there's a track that I could compare this to in terms of tone of like the lyrics, probably a track like A Nightmare to Remember. Trying to think of some others. Maybe like some of the tracks in 6 Degrees. Like some of the mini tracks, like War Inside My Head and things like that, or I can't remember. I think that was the title. Some songs like that, like it's dark and something you wouldn't normally expect from Dream Theater. I guess maybe another close comparison would be The Enemy Inside, but I honestly feel that this one is a lot more like just emotional on a different type of level. It is insanely like I don't even know how to explain it. I'm not going to try. It's just, you need to check this track out. If there's any track on the album that you need to see and listen to, it's this one right here. I hope they play this one live. The instrumentation in terms of solos is not as impressive in my opinion as like a Wits End or S2N, but in terms of riffs and technical sections, including all instruments, this one takes the cake. The guitar, the keyboard, and the drums just so many times in this song, like mold together to create a beautiful like technical piece that you'd hear in something like Scenes from a Memory, like Dance of Eternity and stuff like that. It is insane. Lyrics are bone chilling and beautiful at the same time. Like, I think it's based on some scientists. I can't remember who it is. I want to Carl somebody, I believe, but I'm probably wrong. About a book he wrote by the same name, and it puts you in a crisis. Like, is there really meaning to anything? The pale blue dot in the song representing Earth, and how just minuscule and like worthless we are, and we need to create our own hope or find hope somewhere. And it kind of discusses like religion and science and stuff all at the same time, and not really taking a side on it the way I view it. I really enjoy that song. It's my favorite on the album. More than likely, it will be. And at Wits End is pretty close though. What else? Very unique song. I mentioned that before. Is an epic atmosphere. I mean, it's a closing track of a Dream Theater album. If it's not epic, then like, it's like there's not a Dream Theater song. And they did an amazing job at closing the album on an emotional high, and makes you want more. At 58 minutes, you want more. After this album, you have to get more, and you want it so badly, and you wish that they made it 77 minutes like they always do. But I mean, they milk every last drop of interest, and it's just, you're invested in this album. Even if you're listening casually, you're catching all the details. You can be doing homework or some other activity, you're catching all the details, and there's no stop. It is an amazing song. Let's see what else I have. Again, I mentioned the extremely technical sections. They're just placed in random parts throughout the song, but not inappropriately. It works extremely well, in my opinion, and is never unnecessary or not welcomed. All the instruments shine on this song, while some of the other songs on the album had like one instrument that like just completely blew all the others away. This one has all instruments come together and work as one amazing track. I consider this the best overall non-solo instrumentation on the album, and by that I mean like the riffs and stuff, and the intros and just everything that isn't just letting one instrument shine. It works so well. The best, yeah, I just talked about that. A beautiful end to the album, just a beautiful, perfect end. My score for this track is a 9.8 out of 10, and I do want to say that this is being rated as a Dream Theater album, and a recent Dream Theater album at that. So while I might give an album like Scenes from Memory similar scores, I do want to say right now that that's subjective to the album and not to my taste as a whole, because as my expectations are for these albums, those expectations determine my rating system for each one. So don't look at it in like a concrete fashion. It's going to change, and I will mention my placement of the albums. The 10th track, and I'm just going to touch on this very little, is Viper King. It's a bonus track, and I want to say that I'm not gonna delve into this one much. I want you guys to listen to it, get the whole album. It's worth it. I promise you, it is a beautiful album. All I want to say about this track is that it's just groovy rock and roll with tons of soul. It sounds like a jam session, but like on steroids. It is just fun, catchy, like makes you want to bop your head. It's like rock. I want to say it's like rock and roll mixed with like 7 and 8 strings and just heavy riffs and heavy drums, but you still get that feel of like bluesy rock, and it's just such a unique song. I want to give that particularly an 8.8 out of 10. One of the most experimental songs on the album, in my opinion. Check that song out. Final thoughts on the album. Amazing musicianship on this album. Top notch. Dream Theater always has it, but this one in particular, within the last few albums, just has such beautiful musicianship. Best Dream Theater in years. Probably in 10 years, since Black Cloud and Silver Linings. Very, very close would be at a dramatic turn of events, and they might actually be tied for me. I like both of them a lot. This one does take a lot from that album and also other albums, and I really, really like those two. Technical, heavy, and fast. That was the process, and it just hit. There's never a moment to you were on it the whole time, and by that, it's not a bad thing. It was like not a moment to breathe, but that is a good thing on this album, because there are the interludes, but they're not there just to give you a breather. They're there to keep you dragged in the emotion, and it works so well, and Dream Theater is extremely good at that, and it really shows on this album. Very experimental. I mean, like, they use samples. They don't usually do that. They haven't done that, I believe, since like Octavarium, or at least on the scale of this. Sacrifice Sons in particular is what I'm trying to say. And yeah, at least on the scale of this in like the past decade or so. I mean, it's like crazy. All this stuff, like they included a meme in one of the songs. Just slipped it into a drum break. I mean, what band does that? And I'd like to see Dream Theater evolving in this direction, because they're showing more experimentation, showing that they're willing to adapt, but not like abandon their old sound completely. So I definitely recommend checking out the higher rated tracks on here, and just buy the album. Just buy the album. It's worth it. It's $10 on iTunes. Get a physical copy. I wish I could. I can't order this stuff myself right now. I'm gonna get one eventually, hopefully. You're gonna nonstop listen to this for days. It is an amazing album. Amazing solos and choruses. I pointed a lot of those out. It being best in the recent years, in my opinion. All around amazing album. And I'm going to give this album a score of 9.5 out of 10. Buy it. It is worth it. Amazing album. Check it out. You can pretty much get it on any musical platform. I recommend it. And this was my review of Distance Over Time by Dream Theater. I hope you enjoyed it. I took a lot of notes. I took 6 pages of notes on this album. And now I just want to say thank you all for watching. I haven't really done